Welcome to Aaron Plays. In this episode, I'll be playing Fire in the Lake as the United States against the non-player Viet Cong, North Vietnamese Army, and the ARVN, which will be using the Tru'ng expansions bots. In a prior episode, I set up the game as instructed by the Tru'ng expansion plus the original core rules. I am playing the game ahistorical, so the events that will appear will not be in historical order, but I will set up as a full game. First cards are drawn, and the first card here is showing as for the United States as the first option. So let's go through the actual cards and how they work. So as you can see on the top of the cards, there are 4 symbols, and those show the order of choice on that card. So green being the United States, yellow being the ARVN, blue being the Viet Cong, and red being the North Vietnamese Army. Each card can have a maximum of 2 factions play on it and get choices and decisions. The first player with them having the more options, the second player being restricted by what the first player has chosen. If any faction doesn't want to play on the card, so say if I want, even though I have first choice and I don't want to play on this card, I can pass, and then the ARVN on this card would then become the have first option on here. And again, still only 2 factions can get to play on a particular card. Now, with the deck, you always can see 1 card further into it. So this is the next card that will be played. And we have options. And as soon as we discard this first card, another card will be drawn down. And so we know what is coming 1 card into the deck. So I have first choice on this card. So let's see what it's actually offering me. Okay, and then I'll go through the options I have on the card. So Blowtorch Comia, he's giving me aid plus 10. And this support phase, Pacify costs 1 resource per step or terror and momentum. Now, that is a good event. Why is it a good event? Aid. Let's go through this step by step. Aid. What is aid? Aid is what the world is giving either America or the rest of the world to South Vietnam to resist the North. It starts at 15. Each coup phase, whenever a coup phase comes up, there is a resource allocation phase, and the South Vietnamese get amount of resources equal to their econ value, which is also 15 at the moment, plus their aid, which is 15. So they get 30, and they start at 30. As a faction, as the ARVN does things on the board, it will cost these resources, normally 3 for each activity they would like to do. So boosting the aid by 10 points, taking that to 25, will give me more, or give the ARVN more resources next coup, after the upcoming coup card, so into the next campaign, as it were. It's giving me nothing now, but it will give the ARVN. Now, the ARVN is another player, one of the non-players, so why would I want to give them resources? Well, they are technically my ally. Yes, we win independently from each other, but I do need the ARVN to be strong and well-resourced to win and achieve my conditions. So me giving them 10 aid, not right at this moment, it will, especially into the next campaign, which could be up to 12 cards away, is good, but it's not achieving anything for me at the moment. But let's look further into that card. Pacify costs 1 resource per step or terror. Now, pacify is how I do get people to start loving being free and democratic. So each of these provinces or cities has this little box, and it has 5 states. It starts off at neutral. It can go into opposition, and you've got a passive opposition. So if we click on here just to show, just towards opposition, passive, and adjust it again to active opposition. Take that back. Or it could go the other way, support or active support. What do those mean? Well, each one of those steps, especially with pacification, takes me 1 point closer to my victory, depending on the population size, which is all shown in this little box. So if I took that to passive support, my victory went up by 1 because 1 times 1. If I had it times 2, it would be another victory point. And that's one of my ultimate aims. This normally costs 3 ARVN resources per step. That card has given me that option at 1 ARVN resource per step. But it says in the support phase is in the coup. So again, it's not giving me anything directly, but it's giving me something later on. And that's why it's also got the word momentum. The other thing is, if I don't play the event on the card, the other faction, ARVN, might be able to. So they might get the option to. How do I know what the ARVN would do if I do something on this, if I don't take the event? Well, let's go and see. Each card, as I say, can have 2 players acting on it. This is where the sequence of play comes in here. And this is the very clever little engine on how pretty much all these coin games work, or the coin games I've seen. If, and I say I've got first choice, I've got 3 options I can choose. First one is op only with no special activity. So what does that mean? Well, if we look at this card, oh no, this is an ARVN card. Let's look at my card here. In any activity, I've got an operations, and we've got special activities. So if I choose op only, I can only do 1 of these 4 things. And I'll go into details about each one when we come to do it. I get no special activity. Why would I want to do that? Is because it limits what the second faction gets to play on the card. They could only do a lim op. What's the difference between an op and a lim op? Well, if I do an operation, I can do as many provinces as I have finances to support the operation. So if I did a train operation, I can do it in multiple provinces. With patrol, sweep, and assault. If you're doing a lim op, you can only do it in 1 province or city. So that is the restriction. So that's one of my options. So that's what, if I want to ensure that the second faction, A, can't play the event, and B, are quite restricted. So they might even just pass on the card. My second option is to do an op and a special activity. So that would allow me to do one of these with one of these, which is quite a powerful combination. But that then would allow the second faction to do a lim op or event. They might not like the event, so they do a lim op anyway. But it does give them the option to play the event. My third option is to play the event, which then allows the second faction to do an op and may add a special activity. So it's the reverse of that option there. So that's my 3 choices. So what would the ARVN do? I mean, would they play that event? If it's a good event, it helps them as well. So the way I can check to see the possibility of them playing that event is by looking at various other cards. So I need to determine if this actual card will be crucial to their play, the ARVN's play. And I can do that by a few little steps. I'll show you these. Let's focus on. Oh, that's a bit too much. Right, this little chart here. Non-player eligibility table. This will tell me roughly what they will try and do. Remember, they are going to be the second eligible on the actual card. So it says active faction will be the first eligible on upcoming critical event and cannot execute any current critical event. So now bringing that down and bringing the next one up, is the current card a critical event for them, ARVN, or the upcoming card a critical event? So let's have a look. So this is card number 16, noted by the little number in the top corner, and this is card 82 coming up. So I get this little chart. So card 16 for the ARVN is a P, which means performed. We'll go into what that means soon. It's not a critical event for them. It's not got a C. Okay. Whereas 82 is a critical event for me if the US was playing as a non-player. With the ARVN, it's nothing. So we just know that the current card is a performed, which we'll come to. Let's go back on this chart here. So active action will be the first upcoming critical event and cannot execute. So they don't look at that option. Yes, they are first eligible, but it's not upcoming critical event. They go down to this one. First eligible chose op and SA. So if I choose an operation and a special activity, and event is performed or critical and effective, they'll choose the event. So if I do choose an op and special activity, and the event is performed, which it was, or critical, and is it effective? So we now need to determine, is it an effective event for them? And that's where we look at this slightly lower part on this table here. Okay, what is an effective event for the Republic of Vietnam? Is it an unshaded or non-dual use momentum event? It is. It's a non-dual use momentum event. So let's bring that down. Look at that card again. It's a momentum event. It's got the word momentum there. So they would choose that event card if I did an op and special activity. So you could view that as me negotiating with the non-player character, non-player ARVN. Look, if I do an op and a special activity, will you do blowtorch Khmer as momentum? And they've effectively turned around and said, yes. However, that would mean that the VC will get first choice on the next card coming because the ARVN would have been activated on the first card. So the question is, do I want the VC to have that event, which is quite not 3 available US troops out of play, aid -9. So is card 82 a critical event for the VC? It's a performed event. So they probably, as first option on that, would take that. Because again, going back on this one, they'd be first eligible on that particular card. Current event is critical and effective, not critical for them. Next eligible could choose critical event, op only. So they might take the event. First choice of upcoming critical event is not critical to them. So they might skip it. Again, depends on what other options might manifest depending on what I do. So yes, you can get lost in the detail here. Just with these first two cards, the amount of decisions that I've got to make. So I think I'm going to risk it. I'm going to let the ARVN take the event. So that brings me now to what I will choose, which will be, I want them to play the event. So I'm going to choose an op and special activity. So now let's look at what my options are when it comes to an op. Okay, so let's just zoom in a little bit. This is the card that I work from. So I've got 4 operations I can do and 3 special activities. Now I don't have many troops units on the board, and neither do the ARVN. When the US does a lot of operations and special activities on the board, they don't cost any resources. Effectively, the US resources are unlimited for the purposes of what's going on in South Vietnam. So what are my options? I could train, which will bring more ARVN onto the board. Doesn't do anything for my units. The only time I can get units on is in the next coup phase. So that's helping the ARVN. Patrol. This is used to clear the lines of communication. That's these roads. Notice they've got a little value in circle. Protecting those is useful because in the next coup phase, those add to the econ value. Every one of these that is destroyed by the insurgents detracts from that econ value of 15 I showed earlier. So patrol could be useful. I can get some troops out to protect these lines of communication, but using US troops is an expensive way in that those troops are not available to do other things. Sweep. That allows me to search for the guerrillas. Okay. Let's have a look at these guerrillas. The VC, each of these hexagonal pieces has 2 sides. An active side with a little star on it and an inactive side. I cannot directly attack these guerrillas if they're inactive. We know they're somewhere in this province, we just haven't located them. And that means I can't attack the base until I get rid of these guerrillas. So to get rid of these guerrillas, I've got to send troops in to sweep the province, to find the guerrillas, to activate them. So at a later point, I can assault them. So that is an option. Now, sweeping in jungle is harder than sweeping in grassland provinces. So there's 3 different states of provinces. You've got grassland, jungle, and mountain. And then you've got cities. So these 3, grasslands, the jungles, and the mountains, are provinces. These ones, the circles, are cities. And these roads are lines of communication. The important thing is they are all spaces on the board. So even this little road here, that is a space. These little black dots, they are towns and they separate the spaces. So this Route 11 is adjacent to this Route 21. Adjacency is quite important. This Route 11 is also adjacent to Quan Doc because it's ends at the town, which then causes it to be adjacent to Quan Doc. And that is one of the examples that they give in the rule book. So adjacency is quite important when it comes to doing things like sweeps. And the final option is assault. If I assault, that means I've got to have troops in a province with exposed guerrillas or a base on its own. Then I've got my special activities, advise, again, that is useful for helping the ARVN. Airlift allows me to, as it says here, mass troops quickly for an operation. That allows me to pick up troops anywhere on the board and move them to another province. There are limitations, and I'll go through the limitations when I decide to do an airlift, but it allows me to move troops quickly, as it says, for an operation. So I could amass troops to do a big sweep in an area. And then there's airstrike, which I can use to hit the Ho Chi Minh Trail and exposed insurgents. And I'm going to do a special activity at this point. I think I'm going to do a train and advise. I need to boost up the ARVN, give them more units onto the board. So let's look at that in detail. So build local forces, support and cut patronage. So that means I can restrict. Remember that one of the, from the previous episode, I mentioned that patronage is one of the ways that the ARVN win. I can use this to rein them back a bit. Where I can do it, location, cities or provinces with US pieces. So I can't just do it into nowhere. And it costs 3 ARVN resources per space where I place ARVN. If I'm going to place any ARVN units, it's going to cost the ARVN 3 resources. And then it gives me the procedure of what actually happens. So I can place 1 or 2 irregulars. Now, my units are irregulars. Or if a US base, 1 or 2 rangers, that's the ARVN's equivalent of my irregulars, or up to 6 ARVN cubes. Then in up to 1 coin-controlled train space may pacify 1 or 2 levels, or if Saigon, up to 3 patronage to ARVN resources. Okay. I don't think I really want to do that last part at the moment, because pacify is my aim. And getting some of these guys out. So for every space where ARVN is placed, location, city or provinces with US pieces. So there's quite a few ARVN pieces there that I want to get, especially when I get those 2 ranges out, because they're very useful. Okay. Anywhere where there is US pieces. So let me zoom out, back out again. Okay. So I've got US pieces in Saigon. Priak, Dalek, Kontum. So I've got quite a few US pieces up here. Okay. So I want to make this province here coin controlled. There's US pieces there. Going through that, build local forces, support or cut patronage, cities or province with US pieces, 3 ARVN resources per space where ARVN place. Place 1 or 2 irregulars, or if US base, 1 or 2 rangers, or 6 ARVN cubes. So I can't play, because there's no US base here, I cannot place any cubes in Quang 3. If there had been a US base, I could, or I could place 1 or 2 irregulars. So I could place 2 US irregulars there, and that would cost nothing, because it's not placing ARVN. So I might make that my first option. So let's get, all right, so the use of these pawns, okay, let's put those there. All right, I place a pawn there to show that's an area that I'm interested in placing something. Okay. Here, there is a US base. I want to place some troops, some ARVN troops. And Saigon, where there is also a US base, I want to go and place some of their irregulars. So I'm placing in 2 provinces. That will cost 6 ARVN resources. Okay, they're currently on 30. If we look at here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, why is not the little button working? I suppose I could have just dragged this from there to there, and I'll probably do that from now on. That the automation doesn't seem to work on every mouse click. Okay, so I will bring in here 3 troops. The yellow cubes are troops. The orange are police. Yeah, I'm going to bring the rangers up here. And then I'm going to bring 2 of my irregulars in here. So that's boosted the coin control here. That gives them 2 points. Here, we've now got coin control as well, which gives us another point. And those are points to the ARVN. I'm not bothered about control. I want the hearts and minds. And more troops here ready to do things like sweep and such forth. So that's the 3 areas. And then it says, up to 1 coin-controlled train space may pacify 1 or 2 levels. Okay, so I can pacify Saigon or Black Duck. I'm going to pacify here. Okay, because here I can do 1 level. There I can do 2. It says 1 to 2 levels. So I'm going to pacify here. This is going to be at the full cost because we still haven't got, and the from that card, the bonus only counted in the support phase, which is after the coup. So this is going to cost 3 resources per space. So just towards support, and that gains me 2 victory points, 2 times 1 against all working on the population. Okay, so I gained effectively 2 victory points there, and that costs 3 resources per level. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm spending ARVN resources for doing ARVN stuff, effectively. There is a limit on what the US can do with ARVN resources. I cannot go below the econ level. So once this marker reaches 15, I can spend no more until it's again above 15. But that will conclude the train part of my operation. So the special activity I chose was advise. So let's go through the advise. Right, let me zoom in on that card again. Purpose, strike with indigenous forces, add aid. Okay, indigenous forces are the ARVN. Accompany op, train or patrol. So I could only do advise if I chose the train or patrol. So if I did a sweep, I could never use the advise operation. With sweep, I would have got to do either the airlift or the airstrike. But I did do a train, so location 1 or 2 provinces, not, notice the way it underlines not selected for training. So I can't use, and that's why I've kept the pawns on there to remind me where I've done the train. Each space I can sweep in place or assault with ARVN at a cost of 0. The US are advising them how to do this. Or activate an underground ranger or irregular to remove 2 enemy pieces. And then if desired, +6 to aid. Remember I mentioned earlier in the episode that the aid is important for the ARVN. So where can I help? So in a space where they've got no, well, I didn't do a train. Okay. So I can't do it. Right. We have a ranger here. That's the only sort of space where they are all ready to go. So going back on that. 1 or 2 spaces not selected for training. Each space, sweep in place or assault with ARVN. Well, they've got nowhere they can sweep or do anything in place because they've got no troops. Or activate an underground ranger or irregular to remove 2 enemy pieces. Okay, bases last. Energy size 6A. So activate an underground ranger. Well, I don't think the aid is going to help me that much, really. So the advise, because the ARVN aren't really set up as yet to take advantage of the advise. So as I've done no special activity as yet, I'm going to choose now to change that to an airlift. You don't have to pre-declare you choose a special activity, but when you come to the special activity, you can choose. So looking at that advice, the ARVN aren't set up for it at the moment. So I'm going to choose airlift instead. Mass troops quickly for an operation. Accompany op any. So it's allowed to go with train. Location, any 4 spaces to in monsoon. Monsoon is when the next card upcoming is a coup card. The card that you're working on is then classed as monsoon. There are restrictions, as you can see, when a monsoon occurs. So I can, location is any 4 spaces, and I can redistribute any US troops and up to 4 irregulars, rangers, or ARVN troops among the selected spaces. So it allows me to move those things that I've just brought onto the board between those 4 selected spaces. So let's do this. So I'll place that there. That there. So I want to get some ARVN troops. Let me just change the map scale again. Okay. That there. And so any 4 spaces. Redistribute any US troops and up to 4 irregulars, rangers, or ARVN troops among the selected spaces. Okay. Right. That there. Okay, so any amount of US troops. Okay, so we're going to take one of those guys down there, and he's going to be accompanied by an ARVN troop. That's one of the 4 ARVN I could move. Pick an ARVN soldier up to there. That's for 2. Bring a ranger down to here. That's 3 of those guys moved. A US troop up here. All right, so that's 4 of the ARVN done. Is there any more US troops I want to move? No, I think I'm happy with that. So that would be the end of my airlift, which then concludes my play on that card. So I will click the end faction play. Clears all the movement trails. And that ends what I'm doing on that card. As you can see, there was quite a lot of decisions I could make. And that's me as a player. So now let's look at what the ARVN I'm going to do on that card. So I'll go back over, look at this. They are the second eligible. So active faction will be first eligible on upcoming critical event and cannot execute any current critical event. Well, we know we've looked into the next card. It's not a critical event, so they're not going to click on that option. First eligible chose open as special activity. I did. And event is performed, which we checked, and it is a performed or critical. Well, it is performed. And effective, we looked on here to see if it was effective. An unshaded or non-dual use momentum event, which it is. So they will choose the event, which is shown by as such. The event says aid plus 10. We've got the aid one here. Move that to 25. Boom. And then this support phase, pacify costs 1 resource per step or terror. So I move this down here because it's a momentum card. Ready for coup. And that's then done. End faction play. End card play to show we finished playing on that card. All right, let's drag it up there. Let's drag that back down. Draw card. So it's moved this card across, and that makes this the next card. Also down here, these two show that the Americans and the ARVN aren't eligible on this card. There's the VC and the NVA. And that was one card play. A lot of decisions made, and I showed a little bit on the rules there. I'm going to end this video at this point. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen. I hope you'll join me for the second card in the next video. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already and you're enjoying what you're watching. Any comments, anything I've missed, because there's quite a lot that I could have missed. Do you think I'm going into too much detail? Again, all mention it in the comments. And also remember, click the alarm button as well, because then any updates or further videos, you'll get to know them straight away. Thank you for watching. Bye.